So today I'm going to talk about my internship experience that I went through during the summer break. So before I talk about my project, I would like to introduce a bit about myself. I'm Yi Heng. I'm currently a Term 4 ASD sophomore. So basically, uh, architecture study. I think what I'm sharing now is relevant to my experiences that I went through during this internship. This is a photo of me doing sketching in Bangkok earlier this year. So as you can tell, I'm a avid urban sketcher. I'm an active member of Urban Sketchers Singapore, and I'm a current president of SUTD Sketchers. So how this hobby started was because I was very interested in architecture, and from this hobby, my appreciation of architecture also grew. So here are some of my works that I've done last year. So I actually started urban sketching last year, and I've been doing it at the very least once a week. Yeah. So other than urban sketching, I was also like commissioned by the school to work on some designs for postcards as well. So here are some of my works, and yeah, this is one of my more recent work. This was done 2 weeks ago at around at Tiong Bahru. So why is this relevant? So I wanted to during during the summer break, I wanted to work on internship project that was related to architecture. So I contacted the artificial architecture lab in SUTD, which is led by Professor Emmanuel. This lab examines the conceptual and technological shifts in design thinking and practices as induced by state-of-the-art development in both fields of inquiry. The group speculates and reimagines new paradigms of artificial design computation and new modes of augmented human-machine interactions for the built environment. So after looking through my portfolio and my resume, Professor Emmanuel offered me the choice between two different projects, both AI related. As a caveat, even though I was introduced to machine learning during a mod last year, I'm still extremely inexperienced about AI. So out of these two projects, what was interesting to me the most was AI sketching and what it might entail. So during my first Zoom call, Professor Emmanuel asked me to talk about my urban sketching experiences to try to come up with new directions with AI generated sketches. Since there are already many AI programs that utilize sketches as a tool, such as deepfake AI that converts sketches into facial profiles, Professor Emmanuel wanted to fuse the idea of AI specifically with urban sketching due to my experience in it. Hence, the question, is it possible to fuse urban sketching and AI to create a useful tool? So as we were brainstorming about the project, he suggested me to take a look at Google Quick Draw for inspiration, as it was an AI trained by sketches as well. So basically, Google Quick Draw is a game that requires the player to sketch based on the word that's given to them. And AI will try to accurately guess the sketch under 20 seconds. And each new sketch, whether or not the AI was able to guess correctly or not, will be added into the training set to train the AI to guess the sketches with more precision. Through analyzing each vector strokes and with interpolation and stroke prediction, the AI makes the appropriate guess of the input. However, when thinking about urban sketching, we highlighted some features as well as potential issues when using it as a medium for our data set. So the beauty of urban sketching is that there are no two sketches that are the same. However, the use of colors, varying line weights, and sizes may introduce too many variables if we were to use it to train an AI. And due to the time constraints, having only 10 weeks to work on this project, we had to take into account how long it would take to complete each individual sketch. And we might not be able to generate a large enough data set to train the AI within the 10 weeks of the internship. So as we were thinking, I came up with the idea that we, instead of using urban sketching, we can use thumbnail sketches. So what are thumbnail sketches? Thumbnail sketch is basically helps strip a scene down to its basic elements and is used to position key elements into the frame. So this is usually done before you work on the actual sketch so that you can roughly draft out your sketch and plan it out before you work on the actual thing. So the advantages of using this method of sketching is that it's easy to control with simple strokes, limited colors, and it is very quick to work on. Each sketch usually takes less than 5 minutes, as you would expect in a you would do multiple thumbnail sketches to get the perfect angle you want before start working on an actual sketch itself. And because of how short uh, of a time you take to work on each of these thumbnail sketch, it allows for different interpretations of the space and forms that are found in the sketch. Hence, we thought to create an AI that is able to generate thumbnail sketches based on images provided to the program. So what do I mean? Uh, what we came up with was a basic idea of creating an AI program that when you feed in a reference image will produce a, a thumbnail sketch for you. So what this achieves is basically we thought of it as a visualization tool to help with design ideation. So when you give a photograph of an architecture structure to the AI, the thumbnail sketch that is provided back to you can be used for you to interpret however you like, and based on that, it might help with the creative process when thinking about different forms and spaces on the given site. So of course, the two main portions of the project are mainly the data creation and the programming of the AI. And as I have established early on, because I am relatively inexperienced with AI and extremely experienced in urban sketching, I was assigned to focus mainly on data creation. So what does this data creation entail? So basically what I did was I started to choose 4 different planning areas in Singapore. Clementi, Central area, Tampines, as well as Novena, to represent different regions around Singapore. We, by my, I had to collect a repository of reference images based on these regions, as well as filter usable images to use as reference to do thumbnail sketching. And this is where the thumbnail sketching starts. For each image, I would generate a thumbnail sketch and record the sketching process. The video and the sketches will then be exported before I have to slowly classify each file according to the longitude and latitude values in which the images were collected from. So here are some examples of the sketches versus reference. So for each sketch, I would take at most 3 minutes to complete. This means that I do not have the luxury of adding too many unnecessary details to sketch. So basically, apart from the first week worth of figuring out all the necessary details relating to the project, I spent the rest of the internship sketching as large a data set as possible. This included editing and exporting the respective process videos for each sketch. So here is an example of a video of a sketch, which was sped up by 10 times. So the video length is around 20 seconds, which means that I took roughly 3 minutes to finish this sketch. Yeah. What was I able to achieve? Within the 10 weeks of internship, I was able to complete around 2,200 sketches and around 150 hours worth of video capture. Obviously, I had to do research on AI itself, so I actually gained a better understanding about sketching related AI, and I got to experience the rigor of data collection and creation, especially ensuring that all the parameters were set explicitly before data collection could begin, which was what I did during the first week. So here comes the most interesting portion of my presentation. I will be showing you some of the sketches that were generated by the preliminary model that we have right now. Here are some of the images that Professor Emmanuel sent to me. As due to the time frame that was allowed for, this is still a preliminary model. And even though the original plan was to write an AI program from scratch, these sketches were produced from a model that undergone transfer learning from another pre-trained model, trained with sketches of birds. And the results, as you can see here, make for some very interesting sketches. As a whole, most of the sketches look rather abstract due to their wavy nature, while most building facades look uniform. And it's actually very interesting when we look at each individual sketch in detail. And I'll now pick a few to take a deeper look. So if you take a look at one of these sketches, you can find extreme similarities to my style of sketching. For this sketch on the left, the sketch is almost indistinguishable to what I could have drawn. And the AI was able to pick up some of my habits, including using mid-tones, the gray tones, to represent the road, as well as using black to fill the trees and the foliage. And the interesting thing is that the model that we used, the AI was not provided with any reference images to work on. So these sketches were all generated from scratch, which means that this sketch over here represents a place that does not exist, or like yeah. So here's another sketch. This is a more abstract sketch, and when you look at this sketch, it's not that straightforward. You might be able to visualize different structures based on this image. So as you can see, there's a large space in the foreground, and you might represent it. You might think it might be a town square. It might be like the middle of a hawker center. The poles at the back might be light poles. It might actually look like railings for the streaks of lines that are across the center of the page of the sketch. And you can see the building at the background, like there might be a building at the background. It might be a shelter. It might be a building with a pitched roof. So a lot of these sketches are actually open for interpretation. Based on this, you can easily see that sketches like this can actually be useful as a primer to further explorations of the space and forms that can be used at a given site. Now, my closing thoughts. So, imperfections that stem from my sketching creates opportunities for the AI to generate a form of variation. And the sketches will not be as simple as a one-to-one recreation of the reference, which allows for a more unique interpretation of space and forms based on the AI-generated sketches. And even though I had extremely limited knowledge about AI coming into this internship, I was actually very happy that I was able to work on this project from the ground up. And it managed to achieve rather stunning results in the form of the generated sketches. For this, perhaps, it is because that I am not familiar with the limitations and boundaries of AI, as due to my lack of experience in it, that allowed me to explore AI in this direction. With AI system being so advanced nowadays, it might be that we are reaching a point where the capabilities of AI are limitless, only bounded by the limitations of our imagination. Perhaps then we will need more creative minds to come up with more innovative ways to take advantage of AI to solve real world problems. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my sharing as much as I enjoyed sharing my experiences with you.